I'm Chef Michael Jacobs, and I'm here with Chef Abel Vuelens. Hey, Chef.
Hey, how you doing, Chef?
I'm awesome. How about yourself?
Doing amazing. Happy to be here.
Oh, great to have you, buddy. I'm excited. So, born and raised locally, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Born and raised Miami, Florida.
Tell me about it. Tell me about getting into the business. Tell me a little bit about yourself, your background, born, raised, the whole nine yards, as you said.
Well, my family came from Cuba when my parents were super young. So kind of grew up into a baseball loving family. Dad always liked sports, but my grandfather was always in the kitchen. He did all the cooking at the house.
Abuelo,
yeah, absolutely.
I love it.
So I kind of, me and him were really close, and I was always in the kitchen with him, helping him prep and do things, and just starting off cooking home food, Cuban food, and all those kinds of meals, and at the same time, my dad was into food. I remember, watching Saturday morning, watching kitchen sessions with Charlie Trotter, and watching all these, Jose Andres made in Spain. And we would just, for whatever reason, you watch a lot of sports, but we also watch a lot of cooking. And for whatever reason, it just, it fascinated me,
I love it. Yeah, I think all chefs, we can all relate to some sort of background when we're with our family, some abuelo, my grandmother, my father. I mean, we all know that it started in the kitchen at home. I mean, we can all relate to that. Yeah. I think there's no chef that I can think of that will tell you otherwise.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially in a Cuban family, it's with a lot of cultures, it's very food centric, and a lot of my best memories are tied, to food.
How does that translate into where you're at today? Like, how did you get into the industry?
I mean, as a younger guy, I just I always wanted to pursue it, and I was kind of confused. Just I guess like a lot of guys growing up, like what to do during those times. There was a lot of pressure to go to 4-year university and go to college and get those kind of degrees. So I kind of started off at FIU a little bit, doing business, and that was great. And kind of but halfway through, I was always working in restaurants and
paying for school,
right? And more and more. Working in restaurants, I kind of realized that, this is what I love to do. I cook at home with, my grandparents and that kind of stuff. And, I'm cooking in the restaurant at night and, not getting much sleep and going to class. And then kind of like halfway through the whole FIU experience, I kind of decided to make a turn, and I went to culinary school. I went to Le Cordon Bleu down here in Miami, and kind of just really just focus on food. And I'm happy I did.
How was your experience at the culinary school at Le Cordon Bleu?
Le Cordon Bleu was great, it was interesting. It was there's always, I guess like anywhere, there's a mixture of people that you can tell are really into it, and they're there because they love cooking, and
they're serious,
they're passionate, they're there on time, and they're really trying to hone their skills. And then there's other people that are just kind of there to just kind of float around and
see if it's for them
and whatnot. And I guess in the industry it can kind of be the same sometimes, so it was kind of like my first little introduction of both sides of it.
Right.
Yeah.
So you graduate culinary school, and what's your first job out?
First job, I took a job. I responded to an ad on Craigslist for Michael Mina. He had still has a restaurant, Bourbon Steak.
Michael Mina. You come out of the gate working for one of the tops.
Yeah.
It's pretty awesome.
And honestly, young, naive kid, I knew very little about the whole experience. I saw an ad on Craigslist, and they said, they had a garde manger position open. That's all they had available. And, I applied and signed up, and I think maybe 3 or 4 months later, I was down working the grill and, slowly worked my way up.
From that point on, when you're at Bourbon Steak and you came out of culinary school and you're looking at the industry, what are your thoughts on, wow, moving forward, where do I see myself, 5, 10 years down the line, whatever, versus where you presently are today? Give me a little.
Yeah. I mean, during those times, for sure, I was always kind of looking to the fine dining restaurant, kind of like, I hate, and not that I love the term molecular gastronomy, but it was kind of big. And I looked up to guys like, Grant Achatz and these kind of guys that were doing all those kinds of things. And as a young guy, it was super interesting and modern, and they were kind of like, rebels in what they were doing. And, that was kind of like a big influence. Not that, I necessarily went in that direction right away.
Right.
But you know, I always wanted to push myself and do as good as I could. And you know, steakhouse is kind of like a great place to start. You know, it's a great foundation, and I still think that a lot of my cooking and you know, ideologies come from, you know, that steakhouse style of cooking, learning how to make proper sauces and how to cook meat to temperature and butcher meats, and a lot of things that I feel like guys want to just kind of glaze over and skip on, and I want to go do this and that, when you know that the foundation is really important, you know. So you know, luckily I'm glad that that's kind of where I started, and I learned those things, you know.
Right.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of dying arts for our business.
Yeah.
Butchering and, you know, prepping. People want to just, you know, get through it all. They don't really understand the actual concept of why do you do it. I mean, you got to break down 1,000 chickens before you know how to really break down a chicken and understand a chicken. How do you break down a side of beef? How do you fillet fish? Why do you fillet it this way as opposed to that way, right?
Yeah, and it's a practice, you know. It's, if you don't do it every day, you can be awesome at cutting steak and ribeyes and porterhouse and whatever it might be, and you take your foot off the gas and you don't do it for 3 or 4 years, and you go to look at when you're kind of, you know, looking at it kind of weird.
You're like, hello.
Yeah, especially nowadays, I feel like, you know, people are just young chefs. They see a lot of pretty pictures on Instagram, and that's all they want to do. But you know, they have to understand, to get to that point, you know, without a foundation, you're never going to get there. At the end of the day, it's food, and people are there to eat it.
Let's move on to where you're at now. You have this wonderful hospitality company, Inc.
Yeah.
And they're out of Toronto, correct?
Yeah, based out of Toronto.
So you have Toronto, Canada. Do they tell me first? Let's start over. Tell me about Inc. Hospitality Company based out of Toronto.
Yeah, I mean, Inc's a big powerhouse in Toronto. They have, you know, a countless number of restaurants up there, and I kind of got my start with them down here at Biblos in South Beach.
Yes,
which is
Washington Avenue.
Yeah, it's an amazing restaurant, and
the concept is
it's Middle Eastern,
right?
You know, kind of parts of Lebanon, Egypt, kind of plays on you know, a little modern aspect of that type of cuisine.
Yeah,
and
Sarah was a big fan. I used to see Sarah hosting her parties there.
Yeah, and it was a style of cuisine that, you know, I wasn't 100% familiar with, but you know, kind of when I started off, I took a trip to Toronto, and I went to, you know, they have a few Biblos locations up there, and you know,
what were some of the inspirations that you got while you were in Toronto?
I mean, with that cuisine, it's the spices. You know, it's all about the spices and things that I necessarily wouldn't go to or, you know, even know about. Was kind of like the biggest learning experience, and not being afraid of spice and how to use spice. And you know, I think with a lot of different cuisines that you kind of spend a few years working on, for me, like Italian food is, you know, close to my heart, but same with that style of food, I kind of fell in love with it.
Middle Eastern, yeah,
Middle
Eastern
amazing.
Food is incredible. It's interesting because I think personally I can relate to it, as I worked in the Middle East, and it's the layering of flavors. And then how does that Middle Eastern flavor concept come together? How do you layer those flavors? How do you put them in what combinations? And that in itself is its own way. And then you kind of think about it in the US and what other cuisines are like that. There aren't many, but there's one that I think of all the time. And I think New Orleans. New Orleans is another concept of layering of flavors. Absolutely. And it's also a layering of cultures. Yeah. So you can I use that in my head to like, how do you work it? So then you go back to it and you're like, who's there? Where did they bring the spices from? And then you go into history, which is one of my personal things. You go into, you know, the Marco Polo, the spice trade, the whole line, everything. And you figure out that all these flavors, they come together in a certain fashion for a reason. All these families, they tried it and used it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right now you're at Sofia in the design district. Tell me the concept. Tell me everything to do with it.
Yeah, so Sofia is, I mean, their concept is, it's a mixture of a contemporary art gallery and just kind of elevated Italian food. You know, it's
that's great. So
the
like
dining
you're
room's like
eating
an
the
art
art
gallery
on the plate and you're looking at beautiful art on the wall.
Absolutely,
right?
absolutely. Yeah,
I love that idea.
Yeah, tons of curated art on the walls, and you know, you can buy a piece of artwork right off the wall if you like it, you know.
Right
so
there.
we just try to, you know, stay true to, you know, classic Italian food, but you know, just present it in our way and elevate it.
Tell me a little
and
bit about the
modern.
menu.
So the menu, you know, like a lot of Italian restaurants, we focus a lot on our pastas. All the pastas are made from scratch, you know, homemade. I wouldn't do it any other way, you know, working with Scott. For a long time.
If you're
it's kind of
opening
in
a
my
box,
blood.
Scott's going to be a little upset, right?
Yeah, for sure. But
Tell me about your menu. I see a beautiful picture of is that cacio de pepe?
Yeah, so this is our play on the cacio e pepe. It's got little
Cacio de
truffle in
pepe.
there, so it's a cacio e pepe al tartufo.
Ah, yes.
So it's a, you know, house-made bucatini noodle.
Oof.
And kind of like our play on it is, you know, it's picked up with a little, like a Parmesan fonduta. And I guess a little different thing that we do is we add like a little bit of onion soubise, like in the base of it, just like, you know, classic French soubise for like a little bit of background flavor instead of, you know.
I love that.
Instead of, you know, sauteing onion or.
That'll give you that extra sweetness.
That little bit of
right?
sweetness, that layer of flavor. And then, of course, like a beautiful black truffle sauce. Finish it with pecorino cheese, black pepper, of course.
Right.
And then we shave some nice black truffle over the top, and it just kind of takes out that dish to the next level.
Fantastic.
I love that dish. It's a guest favorite.
Is it? Yeah.
Everybody's got to go for one for sure.
Yeah, I'd probably get two, one to start with and one to finish with.
One for dessert.
Yeah, right. And then you have, I believe, a carpaccio.
Yeah, another beautiful dish. Also, you know, another truffle kind of forward dish, which is beautiful. It's a beautiful.
Using a lot of truffles for summer truffles.
Yeah, so summer truffles and winter truffles when we have the opportunity to, and just, you know, always trying to, you know, source the best product, what's available. But the carpaccio I love. It's a beautiful Wagyu eye-round. It's marinated in vincotto, a little salt and pepper, seared, chilled, frozen, all that good stuff. Sliced super nice and thin. And then it's kind of served with some fig, pine nut, a beautiful truffle with yuzu and a little soy vinaigrette that kind of gives a nice, gives a nice little umami, a little depth of flavor. Something you wouldn't necessarily know it's there, but you know you like it.
It sounds delicious.
Yeah,
I might have to have one of those next time I had. Beautiful. Out of all the recipes, when you're putting this menu together, I'm assuming you want to bring in, obviously, the local, as you alluded to. What items are you thinking about when you're putting the menu and the recipes together?
Well, you know, we always try to use as much local produce, and I think that's kind of like the biggest part, you know, local farms and local produce. And there's, you know, Florida's a great place. A lot of things grow well here, especially tomatoes and, you know, other types of citrus and all those kinds of things. And, you know, just try to incorporate that as much as possible and just try to, you know, make it as product driven, ingredient driven as possible, you know.
Understood. Would you say you source a lot from constantly looking for proteins, or obviously, as you just mentioned, proteins as well? Is that something we have to look for?
Yeah, I mean, obviously being down here in Florida, we're surrounded by, you know, a plethora of great seafood, you know, all shrimp and shellfish and fish and, you know, whatever, like this beautiful like Frito Misa we have. It's like one of our favorites.
What's in it?
We do scallops. We do nice prawns, and you know, obviously the classic calamari with the tentacles. My favorite part, you know.
So many people don't eat them, right?
Some people don't eat them, but it's honestly for me the best part. It's served with a beautiful bergamot aioli. You know, a little bit of just like a little bit of split pepper, smoked paprika, some lemon.
Right.
Kind of classic, but just clean,
little
fresh,
twist,
and
little tweak.
Yeah, something you think might be a little heavy, but it's actually super light and really delicious. Yeah.
How long has the restaurant been open?
The restaurant's been open since 2022.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
So you're doing pretty good, huh?
Yeah, doing well.
I love it.
I'm happy there. Yeah.
What are some of your favorite items on the menu, if you had to pick?
If I had to pick, I know it's tough. Man, I gotta say, I love our rigatoni. Our rigatoni, it's like rigatoni alla vodka, spicy rigatoni. It's like one of those dishes that's, you know, it's a classic, you know, and just the way that we do it, we add in a little bit of pickled garlic, a little confit shallot in the base of it.
Pickled garlic,
you know,
like
vodka,
that.
obviously.
Yes.
It's always exciting to cook with a little bit of vodka, right?
Right.
And then just, our beautiful house-made rigatoni, Parmesan cheese, straightforward, simple, but it just has so much flavor, and it's just kind
Beautiful.
of speaks to, I think, Italian cuisine, just simplicity, but still delicious. And it's something that you think about when you leave,
I see we have, is that a New York strip?
Yeah, it's a New York strip. That's our bistecca, we call it there. And it's served with a little potato galette on the side. It's a prime New York. All of our beef is prime beef.
Okay.
It's simply seasoned, salt, pepper, just cooked nice. Little potato galette on the side, kind of napped with a little Parmesan fonduta, some like agrodolce, sweet and sour, cipollini onions.
Bring in a little local flavor.
Yeah, for sure. So I mean, it's meat and potatoes our way.
Right.
So it's satisfying, the little cheesy fonduta sauce with the steak and the potato. I mean, it's hard. Right? It's hard to go wrong with that one. Yeah.
Must sell a ton of those on the weekends.
Yeah.
Too, right?
Yeah.
I see we have a piccata or is it a Parmesan or what?
Yeah, it's our
Milanese.
Milanese.
Excuse
so
me.
it's our veal Milanese. We start out with a beautiful veal chop.
Yes.
That we kind of pound out. Not too thin. Something that still has a little.
What kind of veal are you using?
Just like a beautiful milk-fed veal.
Beautiful.
Yeah, it's a 10 to 12 ounce on the bone. We serve the bone with it as well, which
Gorgeous
is
presentation.
always great for me, and I love to see it. And just a nice little fresh arugula salad with a acidic little vinaigrette, tomato, classic.
So you take a beautiful veal chop, pound it out, and then what's your method of prep? You do the flour,
flour, egg, a nice seasoned panko breadcrumb, nice amount of Parmesan cheese in there.
In the panko.
Yeah, in
Good
the panko.
answer, right?
Pan fried.
So many people don't do that. They think, well, I'll wait till after, I'll finish it.
Yeah.
They don't. Why do you put the Parmesan in your panko?
Well, I mean, not only that it's classic. I mean, it's just you gotta layer those flavors. The Parmesan, I mean, it helps give it a beautiful color. It helps give it a lot of nice umami. And sometimes it just, like you said, a little finishing salt is great, but you don't do the dish any justice. You gotta layer in flavors and season it as you go, so your final product is something that you can be proud of.
I love it. Tell me about the next dish.
So this is actually one of our newer ones, one of our new desserts here. Me and Chef Patrick Ox, a great guy I've worked with for many years, and now have the opportunity to work with him at Inc. now. We decided to do a panna cotta, which is another Italian classic.
Oh yeah.
But we said, hey, we're gonna do it with classic kind of tropical Miami flavors. So we have a coconut panna cotta. It's got a coconut sorbet, a little almond kind of biscotti cookie crumble. We do a mango glass, it's like kind of beautiful shards of dehydrated mango puree, and then it's poured tableside with like a guava soup or a guava consomme, we like to call it, just to finish it off. Beautiful color, beautiful flavors.
Tell me about the guava.
Yeah, so the guava, I mean, growing up in Miami, guava's huge. I mean, I'm sure if you've lived in Miami long enough, you've had a pastelito before with that guava filling. And it's,
I've had a couple, I'd say.
Yeah,
maybe one or two.
I've had my fair share, especially growing up in a Cuban family. But it's just one of those flavors that kind of just resonates with Miami, the guava. And right now, we always have a hot summer and a hot winter, I think, too. It's kind of always hot, but it's just a nice, refreshing dish. And the combination of the coconut and the mango and the guava, it's a nice tropical thing.
Beautiful.
Thank you very much. We're really proud of that one. We worked hard on it.
All right, so I'm starting this new tradition. I'm ending all the interviews with the following. If you could cook for anyone in the world, dead or alive, who would it be for and why?
That's a tough one. I'm gonna go with Thomas Keller. I think I would like to cook for Thomas Keller. As a young kid, reading the French Laundry, looking at everything that he was doing there, and kind of, I was kind of like the standard of everything. And I've never had the opportunity to meet him or to work for him.
Great guy.
But I feel like if I can put a dish together and give it to him, and him like it,
check.
I feel like you did something good.
Right.
You did something good.
I love it.
Yeah.
Good. Excellent. Well, Chef, I got to tell you, so much great information. Thank you for your time.
Oh, thank you.
Chef Abel Vuelens from Sofia Restaurant in the Design District.
You got it.
Thank you so much for coming in. Thank you for your time. And again, we're really great to have you here. This has been South Florida Food Chat with Chef Michael Jacobs. Thank you for tuning in.